In this guide, I will show you how you can turn your dull, messy desktop into a nice, clean and minimal looking desktop like the one on the screen now. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of all these files and folders that have been dragged onto our desktop over time, because it just makes the entire thing look cluttered and messy. So what we need to do is right click somewhere on your desktop, come over to view, and then we're just going to select show desktop items. We need to make sure this is unchecked. Now don't worry, you'll still be able to access all of your desktop items by coming over to your file explorer and heading over to the desktop folder, and as you can see, everything is still inside of here. Now obviously the alternative to this would be going over to our desktop and moving all of our desktop items over to the recycle bin, but we may end up deleting something that we need, or over time we are just going to end up cluttering it back again. So for me, just hiding all of the items is definitely the best solution. And the next thing you need to do is right click on your desktop somewhere, and you're going to come over to personalize. Now I like to change my theme from this light one that we currently have selected to this dark one down here. Now obviously this all comes down to personal preference, so just select the one that you like the best out of these options. But personally, I just think the dark one looks much more cleaner and more modern. You can then close out of this window, and the next thing we're going to do is head over to our start menu. And what I like to do here, which makes things very easy when you're trying to access applications and files, is to customize this section here, so the only ones that are showing are the apps that we use constantly. So all you need to do is right click on any apps that you don't use frequently, and then we can just select Unpin from start, and you're just going to go through this list, getting rid of anything that we don't use on a regular basis. And we're going to do the complete opposite for applications that we do use on a frequent basis. For example, I always use the Riot client. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for this in my start menu, and I'm going to right click on the Riot client and select pin to start. And then that way, when we come back over to our start menu, that's going to appear right here for easy access, which will allow us to load up our favorite applications and software. And you can also drag these to reorder them if you wish. And once you've done that, you can head out of the start menu, and we're going to right click on our taskbar down at the bottom here and come into taskbar settings. Then in these taskbar items, you just need to disable anything that you don't need inside of here, because a lot of these just cause unnecessary clutter on our computer. So I'm going to get rid of Copilot, and I'm going to get rid of task view, and I also have widgets disabled as well. Another thing that I'd recommend here is for the search to have the search icon only. Obviously, if you have the search icon and label, it looks like this, which to me just looks a bit too cluttered. So I'd recommend changing this to search icon only. And if you don't use the search at all, you could always disable this just by selecting hide. Then you can close out of this window, and the next thing we're going to do is right click on all of our applications at the bottom here, and we're just going to unpin anything that we don't use on a regular basis. So for example, my mail client, I don't actually use this, so I can right click and select unpin from taskbar, and you should only be left with applications down here that you frequently use. I'd recommend no more than 10 apps down here in the taskbar. And then once you've done that, we can right click on our taskbar again, back into taskbar settings, then come all the way to the bottom inside of taskbar behaviors, and we're going to have a few options inside of here. So firstly, you've got taskbar alignment. Now I like to keep mine at the center, which centralizes all of these applications down here. If you prefer, you can have it over to the left, but for me, this just looks a bit strange, so I'm going to keep that for center. You can also automatically hide the taskbar if you'd prefer, which basically means it will just appear every time you drag your mouse to the bottom of this screen. But again, for me, I like to have this visible at all times. Then come all the way down to the bottom here with this combine taskbar buttons and hide labels. You want to make sure this is set to always, because if I change this to when taskbar is full, then you can see it has all this text at the bottom here, which to me looks ugly and weird. So I'm going to change this back to always. Then you can close out of this window. And the next thing we're going to do is make our taskbar down here transparent, which really makes the desktop look so much better in my opinion. And to do that, you just need to head over to the start menu and search for Microsoft Store. Then head over to the Microsoft Store app, and inside of the search box at the top here, we need to search for translucent, and you'll see a list of applications over here, and we're just going to select this top one, translucent TB. And then we can select install. This should only take a few seconds to complete. So once translucent has finished installing, then you'll simply need to open up the app by clicking this button here, and then we can just press continue to this confirmation message, and you can close out of this window. And as you can see, this has now made the taskbar down here transparent. Then we can further customize this by actually coming over to this little arrow icon and right clicking on translucent, and we have a bunch of options available inside of here. Now you can play around with these options, but one setting that I like to change is if I just come over to another window, for instance, then you'll see that the taskbar is still transparent even though I'm in another window. Now I like to keep the normal taskbar for when I'm using another application. So to do that, we just hit this little arrow, right click on translucent, and then we can come over to visible window and just enable this, and then come back over to translucent again, come back over to visible window and change it to normal. And then this is going to give us the normal window for when we're using our applications. But again, you can just come into these settings and configure these to how you prefer. Now, the next step is going to be where you see the biggest change in your desktop look, and that's going to be customizing the wallpaper. Now, for a clean and modern looking wallpaper, you can just head over to an internet browser and just come over to a search engine like Google, and all you need to do is search for something like cool desktop wallpaper and hit enter. And then come over to Google Images, and once you've found a wallpaper that you like, simply click on the image and just ensure that the image dimensions are full screen for the best quality, so it should be at least 1020 by 720. Obviously this one's a bit smaller, so I'm going to try and find another one. And once you've found an image that you like, we can just right click on this image and select open image in new tab, and then we're just going to right click on this and save the image to our desktop. And then you can head over to your desktop and right click, come over to personalize, inside of background, and at the top here where it says personalize your background, I like to have this set to picture, but you can also have a slideshow if you prefer. And then we can come down to choose a photo here and select browse photos, and you just need to locate the file that we just saved and double click on that. Make sure the choose a fit for your desktop image is set to fill. Then if we come back over to our desktop, you can see that just by adding that image, it's enhanced our desktop massively. Now, the next option you have is changing your wallpaper to an animated wallpaper, which is actually really popular and does give your computer a really cool and unique look. The only downside to this is that if you have a low performance or budget computer, then it could affect the performance. But if you have a modern PC or a high spec PC, then this shouldn't affect the performance too much. And to create an animated wallpaper, we just need to come over to the start menu and search for Microsoft Store, head over to the Microsoft Store app, and inside of this search box we need to type in lively wallpaper, then just come over to this top one here, and once again you're going to install this to your computer. Now once this application's installed, we just need to hit the open button, and as you can see from this application, we have a bunch of animated wallpapers that we can use here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select this matrix looking one here, and you can go through the list and just select one that you like. You can also select add wallpaper at the top here, and you can paste in the link to a YouTube video. So if there is a video on YouTube with a cool animation loop, then you can just paste in the URL here and you've got your own personal animation running on your desktop. So I'm just going to close out of these windows, and that's how it currently looks. And the last thing we're going to do is come over to our start menu and search for settings, then tap on this settings icon and come over to personalization from the left hand side here. Scroll all the way down to colors. And inside of here, we have a few options that we can change. Again, this really comes down to personal preference. For example, I like to have these transparency effects turned on, and then we can come down to the accent color. And I'd suggest that you change this to manual, and we can pick a color from the list. You'll just need to be creative and pick a color from here that complements your wallpaper. And you'll need to play around with these to find which one works best for you. But as a general rule of thumb, you want something that complements the color of the wallpaper. So for instance, because I have this green running down the screen here, I'm going to select a green accent color, and then we can just head out of this window. And that's it guys, that's how you make your desktop look super clean and minimal. I hope this video helped you, and if you did find it useful, then please consider subscribing and dropping a like. Until next time.